At the core of it, PR parenting is about how we communicate with each other. And the big picture theme is rather than wear multiple hats with depending on who you're in company with, to wear one hat and to bring your full self to whatever you do, whether you're at work or whether you're at home or whether you're somewhere else. And to have whomever is in your company to benefit from all of those wonderful skill sets that make you you. So bring your superpowers basically wherever you go. And since we all communicate with people throughout the course of our day, including ourselves when we first wake up in the morning, that communication is considered public relations. And how can we look through a public relations lens to answer a question that's universal to all of us?
How can we mold and meld those two identities together? Because for some people, this is easier said than done.
I think that open communication is the best type of communication, but it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal, Brandon. Sometimes a verbal dialogue is better. Sometimes quiet communication is better, or demonstrative communication is better. And I'm saying peaceful demonstrative communication. So there's all different ways to share your key message in order to maintain and build your confidence, resilience, and self-esteem, and in partnership, build something wonderful together.
Welcome to the Be Better broadcast. We have a very exciting conversation for you today. We have a very special return guest to the show. Her name is Marjie Hadad. And for those who don't know Marjie, she is a global public relations expert and the author of the award-winning international #1 bestseller, The Power of PR Parenting: How to Raise Confident, Resilient, and Successful Children Using Public Relations Strategies. Marjie is an award-winning TV producer as well as a speaker on how moms, mentors, and entrepreneurs can use their own public relations superpowers to thrive in every aspect of life. Marjie holds a BS in broadcast journalism and an MA in international relations, both from Boston University. She is married and is the mother of 3 grown children. And she's here again to talk about the power of PR parenting, specifically how you can be a powerful parent, have work-life balance, and grow your career all at the same time, if all of those are possible, which we're going to ask Marjie here in a minute. When you take away even just one thing from this conversation with Marjie and myself, please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. You are the reason the broadcast has grown to almost 400 episodes in many different countries with many downloads over the past 3 years, because you are the best part of the Be Better team. Without further ado, let's bring Marjie back up. Marjie, it's great to have you on the show once again. Thanks for being here.
Brandon, it's been like a year, maybe more actually, and I'm so excited to see you because when we were last in company, you were about to become a dad.
Yes.
So welcome to the club.
Thank you. No, it's been great. So for those listening, Marjie and I last spoke February 2023. So it's been a year and 3 months. Leo is going to be 1 year on the 12th. So in 3 days, he's going to be a year old, which is wild. And the last time we talked, we spoke very conceptually because I was asking you questions, but I didn't even really know what questions to ask, because until you have a child, you don't know what questions to ask. But you were still kind enough to go over many different strategies about how to incorporate what you call PR parenting. So let me just ask you this right out of the gate. For those who haven't listened to our first episode, which I highly recommend you guys do, the link will be in the description. What is the concept of PR parenting? Maybe you can give us a broad overview of this concept before we dive in.
At the core of it, PR parenting is about how we communicate with each other. And the big picture theme is rather than wear multiple hats with depending on who you're in company with, to wear one hat and to bring your full self to whatever you do, whether you're at work or whether you're at home or whether you're somewhere else. and to have whomever is in your company to benefit from all of those wonderful skill sets that make you you. So bring your superpowers basically wherever you go. And since we all communicate with people throughout the course of our day, including ourselves when we first wake up in the morning, that communication is considered public relations. And how can we look through a public relations lens to answer a question that's universal to all of us? How on earth do I handle this challenge? Whatever that challenge may be. That's the short of it.
Okay, very interesting. So bringing your full self with you. So when you're at work, you're still bringing your home self. And when you're home, you're still bringing your work self. So by you saying that, that's in a way presuming that people are different versions of themselves based on what it is they're doing. We put on different masks per se, right? So is there not value in putting on a mask based on the situation you're in? Or do you believe there's more value in taking the mask off or wearing them all at once?
I say wear one hat and use your skill sets as required.
Versus what? What's the opposite of that you see out there in the world?
Well, at work, you're the professional. At home, you're the parent or the partner. And I have found that in communicating with my colleagues or my clients or my family, that I will use the same approach with all of them, depending on what my goal is. In public relations, it's all about what's the goal? What are the tactics and the strategies that you're going to devise and execute in order to achieve your short, medium, or long-term goal? What words, tone, and delivery are you going to choose in order to achieve these goals? So rather than separating concepts and using them at work, but then coming home and go, okay, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I have absolutely no idea. I say to myself, well, if it works at work, why wouldn't it work at home?
Mm-hmm.
So words, tone, delivery. Am I going to use an I message or am I going to go on the attack? And when I say an I message, I prefer, I believe, I would be happy, I would like, as opposed to, you did a really rotten job, fix it. That's not going to go over very well at work or at home. But
Yeah.
I would prefer that it looked like this rather than like that. And I would be thrilled if I could have some help to achieve this. It's the same message, but delivered differently in a positive way that you inspire action and in a happy way
Yeah.
or an accommodating way as opposed to a begrudging way. So that's for my example for today of how you would wear one hat.
Okay, so this conversation is great because this is going into how you can be better in the workplace and how you can be better for your family. So we're really tackling two at once right now. So when a lot of people attach their identity to their work, and a lot of people attach their identity to their family, right? So when you're at work, some people feel like they're on top of the world. Some people feel like they're the boss. Some people's confidence at work is a 10 out of 10. And then they go home and maybe their spouse is the more dominant in the home. And maybe they feel that their confidence at home goes to a 5 or a 6 out of 10. So really what we're talking about here is identity while in the workplace, identity while at home. How can we inspire this confidence and bring our identity from work to home? Or do we want to do that? Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, so how can we mold and meld those two identities together? Because for some people, this is easier said than done.
I think that open communication is the best type of communication, but it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal, Brandon. Sometimes you might want to share a thought, but it might be better shared, interestingly enough, in a text message. Sometimes a verbal dialogue is better. Sometimes quiet communication is better, or demonstrative communication is better. And I'm saying peaceful demonstrative communication. So there's all different ways to share your key message in order to maintain and build your confidence, resilience, and self esteem, and in partnership, build something wonderful together, whether it's in concert with your colleagues, or it's in concert with your partner, or in concert with your children.
So communication is the key, but not just communication, but knowing the proper way in that specific situation to best communicate.
Absolutely, because sometimes it's very difficult to choose the right tone of voice because you're
Yeah.
feeling one way and you're having a hard time delivering it in the way that you would want to. So sometimes taking the tone out of the equation, and then you can think about what words you want to choose to share your message. And then obviously you'll be receiving the response. So that's one way to handle it. Sometimes you know exactly what you want to say and the tone that you want to share it with in order to achieve whatever your goal is. I think that in order to build confidence in ourselves, which is what you had asked me, how do
Mhm.
we build confidence? First of all, we need to believe in ourselves and believe that and understand that our truth is our truth. And if we want to be seen that way, we have to step up and do our thing. And if you display confidence, then it's going to be received that way. There
Mm.
might be some pushback, but if you hold your ground, then you'll be respected for it.
How did you help instill self-belief and confidence in your 3 children?
Well, we had multiple exercises. I think we may have even reviewed this in our previous discussion, but I would let them try whatever they needed to try. If they wanted to try singing or dancing or piano or guitar or swimming, they always had an opportunity to try. And if they did well, then that was great. And if they didn't, we talked about, well, what could we have done differently? Not better. Didn't make any mistakes. It's one way to do it. Let's talk about another way to do it and maybe achieve a different level of success the next time.
Mm.
You know, in public relations, writing is a key activity in the job. In fact, writing and copywriting is a key activity in just about all professions out there,
I
even
agree.
down to the text message. Now, what we do know in PR, and I've been in PR for 30 years or more at this point, so there's no such thing as the perfect first draft. I don't care how long you've been in the business. It's a first draft. It might be a good first draft, but in business, your entire team has a look at it and everybody makes their comments. And
Mm.
then along the way, it gets better. So the kids learn this early on because we combined in first grade a natural rite of passage with the timing of their learning how to write a sentence.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the first grade when the kids learn sentence construction. Coincidentally, or maybe not, it's also when the kids start to lose their baby teeth and the big teeth start to come in. Now, so what? Right? So what? Well, the so what is what if you combine these two things? Do you remember the process that we spoke about in our last conversation?
Yes. Yeah, I do, because you asked me a question. I forget what the question was, and I didn't know how to answer the question, and it was a funny part of it. What was it again? Tell us, what was it?
So If we take a natural rite of passage, like losing your baby teeth, what do? We take the tooth, we put it under the pillow, we wait for the tooth fairy to come, and then the tooth fairy replaces the baby tooth with money or a gift or whatever the process is at your house.
Yeah.
Well, at our house, we turn this into a writing assignment. And we invited our children to write a request letter to the tooth fairy. And in doing so, they practiced their handwriting, they practiced their sentence construction, they learned how to advocate for themselves, and they learned to identify mom and dad as a safe place to go for feedback. Because after they would write their letter, and they had full control, we were just there on standby if they needed any help or had any questions. When they were finished, and it didn't have to be long, it could be 1 or 2 lines. I mean, after all, they're in first grade, right? So I would say, or my husband would say, fantastic first draft. And you know what mommy says, there's no such thing as a perfect first draft, but this is a fantastic first draft. Would you mind if I have a look just to see? And they'd say, sure. And then I would look at it and I'd say, because there's always something that you're going to find. No such thing as the perfect first draft. And I would take a pastel, never a red, take a pastel color, and I'd say, this is one way to do it. Can I show you another? And they'd say, okay, let's see the other way. And then I would show them the other with the, the green or the blue, or, and they'd say, okay, any other ideas, Mom? And then when I finished the edit of showing them another way, I never said this was horrible. I never said you made a mistake. I just said, this is one way to do it. Let me show you another. At the conclusion of the edit, I would ask them to rewrite it because it might be colorful, make it clean for the tooth fairy. And that's the letter that went under the pillow and was exchanged with the tooth for whatever the tooth fairy brought.
Awesome.
And this went on for years, way past the time when they knew very clearly that mom or dad was the tooth fairy. So.
Yeah.
But what's really cool about this, Brandon, is that this practice that I just described with the tooth fairy can be used and exercised with whatever the activity is, whether it's your children or your colleagues or your clients.
Yeah.
So with my clients, like when I'm media training, I would never say that was horrible. I'd say, let's do it again. This time, this is what I want you to do. I never dwell on the mistakes. I don't even comment on the mistakes. Rather, I guide rather than criticize, which is a key component of PR parenting. Guide rather than criticize. That is the key to inspiring resilience and confidence, and to have your child or your client or your colleague achieve more success than they did previously.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So these principles of the tooth fairy letter and doing this over and over and providing feedback and developing that trust with your children to where they hear, oh, mom wants me to write another letter, but I'm going to do it because it will make me better. How can you practice those different strategies with a group of fully grown people that you're the leader of, when a lot of these people might even be older than you? Let's say you have a very base level of trust, so there is some trust there. Do you also do writing assignments with these colleagues, or do you do it in different ways? I know you just gave an example of let's do it again, you guide versus criticize. But, you mentioned earlier wearing the same mask, or not even wearing the same mask necessarily, but being the same you.
It's a hat, Brandon. It's a hat. Let's talk fashion. Okay. And style.
Yeah. Okay. So while you're wearing the same hat per se, the way you interact with 40-year-old John is going to be different than the way you act with 6-year-old Susie.
Who said?
Tell me more. Tell me why you say that, because I've led sales teams and I've also spoken to Leo, and often they are different things in my experience.
I never talk down to my children. It's one of the reasons why they have outstanding vocabularies. They've been using long words since the early days that even, frankly speaking, their English teachers weren't familiar with. It's the same respect. It's the same guidance. Maybe the word choice is different because it's 6 years old. Your child may or may not know a longer word. So you select a vocabulary that they'll be able to easily absorb. But the concepts remain the same. The respect level remains the same. I gave my children, or at least I tried to, give them the same respect that I gave my clients and my colleagues. It was the same procedure. The difference is I was probably wearing sweatpants at home and I was wearing corporate wear at the office. That's pretty much the only thing that changed.
Fair enough. I like that. It's true.
You might be a little more sophisticated because you can be at the office, but along the years, I elevated the vocabulary in order to guide and instruct my children. And if they would make an English mistake, I would correct them along the way. So that is why they all speak fluent English. And they're also literate and they write perfectly. So in multiple languages, actually. So it's just a matter of practice and reminding them that it's okay to have a journey, and that as we continue to practice and experience, we continue to have more and more success along the way. And it's okay if things don't go according to plan, because you just redirect, and maybe you'll find success if you try again, or maybe you redirect to do something else that's more appropriate for you. You know, everyone has their skill sets. Not everyone's meant to be a mathematician. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm not one of them. Others are storytellers, and others aren't great storytellers. That's my talent, if you will. I love to tell stories. But you can train somebody to tell stories, and you can train somebody to improve their math skills if they really want to. Now, will I be a NASA rocket scientist? I don't think so. But I might have math skills that are good enough to help me to do what I need to do. And to me, that would be a success. And so when I media train a client who might start off having never interviewed before, but by the end of it, they're fantastic. In fact, I presentation trained a client who hadn't been in front of a big group probably in decades. And he took home second prize, actually, and a very large cash reward. I was enormously proud. Wow. I said to him, I said, I got my mama peacock feathers completely spread out in pride of your success. This was my client, not my kids, my client. I tell my clients regularly when they're doing well, how proud I am of them, because I am. Because their success is our success. It's a collective success. When one does well, we all do well.
What's up, Be Better family? It's Brandon Eastman here. And as a thank you for tuning in to the Be Better broadcast, I want to give you a very special gift. For a limited time, you can get a free digital copy of my book titled Be Extraordinary, Your Guide to Self-Mastery. This book is packed with insights and actionable steps that will help you to unlock your fullest potential in the 5 key areas of your life. But that's not all. Along with the book, I also want to give you the audiobook version absolutely free. Imagine having the power to transform your life right at your fingertips and in your ears anytime, anywhere. Go grab your copy at bebetterindustries.com/book. You'll also find the link in the episode show notes. Go and grab your copy and join me in making a positive impact on the world. Now back to the show. It's true. Why change the hat? Wear the same hat, be you in every situation, maybe change your language, like you said, based on who you're speaking with, but the process is the same regardless. So speaking of multiple languages, we talked about the power of PR parenting last year. It was a new book at that time. Now it's been out for over a year. A lot of people have read it. A lot of people have left fantastic reviews about it. It's international bestseller, for God's sake. So there is a new development, though, in that now it's in audiobook as well.
It is. It
So for
is.
those people who aren't readers per se, now they can listen to it. And I know there's a lot of you guys, your podcast audience, you're listening to this because you don't like to read. So now you can listen to the power of PR parenting. And the very cool thing is now it's in English, it's in Hebrew, and it's in Spanish, which is very cool. So why did you choose to create the audiobook a little bit later on? Because I know some people release it at the time of the book, some people release it later. Why did you choose to do it later, and why those 3 specific languages?
The Power of PR Parenting, Brandon, is published by Muse Literary. The publisher's name is Patricia Force, and she has been guiding the journey of this book since since we finished the manuscript. And she called me one day and said, during the pre-launch, which was, I said, January, February, something like that. And she said, we should do an audiobook and we should do a Spanish and a Hebrew version. What do you think? And I said, okay. And that was that. So we focused first on the launch of the hardcover and the paperback and the Kindle, which was April 4th of 2023. And I chose that particular day because that was the week where Ramadan, Passover, and Easter all fell within the same week. And I wanted to celebrate people of all faiths because at the core of it, PR parenting is meant to be universal and to be applicable and helpful to people all over the world, whether you're a mentor, whether you're a parent, whether you're an entrepreneur, no matter what community, country, or faith you aspire to.
Yeah.
That's why the book has the sky as the cover art. Because the one thing that we all do have in common is when we walk outside and we look up, we see the blue sky. That's why the blue sky. It's a visual reminder that PR parenting is a universal concept and can be applied accordingly.
Yes.
So we launched the book, and then we proceeded to record thereafter. There were a series of personal challenges in the last year, as well as current event challenges, which got in the way, frankly speaking, that delayed recording. What should have taken 2 weeks ended up taking 6 months.
Yeah.
And ultimately, my kids and I went into the studio. My children wrote the foreword, not my idea, publisher's idea. They told me to stay the heck out of the process. I wasn't allowed to look until everything was done, and loaded in. And because they had written the foreword, they joined me in the studio. So this ended up being a family project, which was fantastic and something I will remember forever with such enormous joy.
What a beautiful thing.
We laughed so hard. There was a passage in the first session when we were all there together, there was a passage in the introduction, or actually in the first chapter. And I was making a mention of my older daughter, and it didn't occur to me that I would be reading this passage with her in the room. And I started to crack up. It was really, really funny. And everyone started to laugh. So it was a really, really fun moment. So if you do listen to the audiobook, you will hear me start to giggle. You won't get the whole laugh because I think they cut that out,
Yeah.
but it was really, really fun. And we had such a great time recording it. The book is written conversationally, so it was a really, really easy thing to do. It was
Yeah.
really just me and the kids talking and sharing professional and personal stories and what our successes were, what our hiccups were, how you can apply the same, excuse me, activity to your personal circumstances. Look, the questions are the same, but the control is in your hands how you want to answer and strategize that would make sense for your community or for your family. So we do this together and we approach challenges and the question, how on earth am I going to handle this? Looking through a public relations lens. And that's what makes this different. I'm not a parenting expert. I'm not a psychologist. So let's be clear about that. I'm a PR pro. And I look through the PR lens and still do to figure out how I'm going to get from point A to point B. Now, this ultimately is a 25-year retrospective, and I didn't realize I was PR parenting while I was doing it, or even doing it at the office. But now that the book is published, and like you said, the audiobook is now available everywhere where audiobooks are available, including Audible and all the rest of them. And today, I say very often to myself, when I say to myself, how on earth am I going to handle this? My answer in my head is, Marjie, take your own advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now I'm doing it consciously, which is kind of fun. And because my kids all read the book, because they needed to approve their stories, everything
Yeah.
was transparent at home. So they know all my tricks, Brandon. So when
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with one of my kids, they said to me, don't you PR parent me? And I just
Wow.
started laughing. I'm like, okay, so now it's a thing because we're actually using it as a verb,
Yeah.
which was wonderful. So I said to myself, all right, Marjie, she caught you. You're snagged. You have to redirect and do something else if you want to achieve your short-term goal.
Yes.
Target market, key messages. Okay, redirect, go.
Hey, do you have any grandchildren yet?
Brandon, no. My
Okay.
children are single.
Okay. And they're grown, so they're doing their own things. You mentioned several are actually in the military, right? One's traveling abroad for education.
Correct.
So one thing I would disagree with you on is you said I am not a parenting expert. I think the fact that you're recording your audiobook and your children are all in the room having a great time with you as you record this book, you're making it a family affair, which is very much in theme with PR parenting in itself. I disagree. I'd say you're a parenting expert, and I think many people would agree. And I would ask you the question: what classifies an expert? Are you ever at that level? But I'd rather ask you this question, which is, as you were in that studio reading this book, and now it's 6 months later, maybe even some more time, and you're reading it and you're going through what you wrote all over once again, because you don't sit there and read your book every day. Was there anything that you read that you would either change, or more so, did you think to yourself, man, I wish I added this one thing to PR parenting because I've learned this over the past year since the book's release? Is there anything you'd add to the power of PR parenting?
I think I would just say that in reading it back, because when you actually reading it, like when you edit the book, like the manuscript, to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, you read it out loud. And by the way, that's what I share with all of my clients whenever they have a document. Before you make it public, read it out loud, because you will find things that you want to change when you read something out loud that you wouldn't find if you just read it quietly in your head. So I read the book out loud multiple times before it was actually published. And then I really just needed to put it down. And when I went back into the studio and read it out loud, but in a different way, because now I was able to share how I wrote it and how I heard it in my head when I first put it down on the page, as opposed to reading it out loud for editing. And what I can honestly, genuinely say from the heart is that I stand behind all of it. And I'm proud of this work, and I'm proud of the feedback that has been generated in the last year. I wrote it for working moms originally. It was my love letter to the next generation based on my older daughter's recommendation to help young women her age who were newly married, wanted to have kids, wanted to have careers, and weren't sure if they'd be able to balance work and family. And she said, of course you can. My mom's been doing this for 25 years. And then she looked at me and said, you know, you made mistakes, but overall, I think you got it right. So this is what you should write your book about. And what's been enormously satisfying, in addition to helping the next generation of working moms, moms who work in the house, not necessarily outside of the house as in an employed function, but I've heard from dads who say, well, what about us? In fact, a men's magazine reached out to me and said, we have a question. We'd like you to write an article that will help the father community.
Wow.
Okay. And entrepreneurs who said, this approach really helped me to achieve a certain goal that I was having trouble with. Or another person wrote to me and said, thank you, because I was having challenges with my spouse, and one of your approaches helped me to work things through to a successful conclusion. Grandparents, wow, I'm so excited. I'm going to try this with my grandkids. So teachers, one teacher wrote me, she said, I'll never use a red pen again. And she tried that this is one way to do it. Here's another. And she told me that the student for the first time didn't arch their back or tense up. They actually couldn't wait to hear what she had to say next.
Awesome. Yeah.
So the impact has been overwhelmingly positive. And Brandon, that is the biggest treat of all for me, because that was the whole point of the exercise, was to plant the seed to help as many people as possible so that we can raise kids who are confident, resilient, respectful of diversity, so much self-love that they're open to learning about another way to do things, assuming peaceful, and to, again, plant the seeds so that it can go on for generations to come. And in the future, create a more kinder and more respectful world, because what we're living in right now is the complete opposite, and it's frightful, it's disgusting, and it's embarrassing. We're not doing our job right. Something's, totally messed up here.
Yep. I want to talk about that because we talked a while before we recorded, and chapter 9 specifically is, like you said, being part of the solution. And the reason I asked if you had grandkids is because you wrote this book for all these working moms, working fathers, parents all around the world, but you lived this book with your children.
Correct.
And when they have children, they are subconsciously, even if it's not a conscious thing, going to live this with their children, and then so on and so on and so on for thousands of years from now, right? So you didn't just impact other people, you also impacted your children, who's going to impact theirs. So really, this trickle effect, this ripple effect, is so powerful that spans across generations. So while this has helped so many people, who knows how many more people it's going to help, even when we're not on the earth anymore. But let's talk about what you just said to wrap this up, just because I want to respect your time. Being part of the solution. So chapter 9, you just gave a little tidbit of what the message is, but what does it mean to be part of the solution? And how can each of us individually be part of the solution? Because I feel that we talk often about what's going on, what's the problem, but seldom do we say, what can I do or what can we do?
At the core of it, I think it's education. And to have a firm command of real history, not rewriting history. And to understand that it takes an enormous amount of self-confidence and self-love to be able to project acceptance of differences and diversity, assuming that everything is peaceful. To be able to enjoy someone else's company and to explore their culture. And to also have the self-confidence and pride in your own culture, and to see how the combination can produce a product that's really, really cool. Things are not necessarily better or worse, they're just different. And at the core of it, teaching love, acceptance, respect, ditching the negativity, ditching any kind of violence. It's not necessary. Being strong, being confident, being resilient. Teaching your children all of these things. But full circle, first the comes with education, because hatred, Brandon, is learned. And if it's learned, someone is doing the teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to teach our children, no matter what their age is, to look at the full picture, not just part of it. And to understand that until we have had a certain experience or have been in the company of people who have had a certain experience, you're not an authority on the subject. I can talk about my own experiences. That's what you have in the book. But like I said, I'm not a parenting expert, even though you're very kindly calling me one. And I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a psychology degree. But psychology is a key component of many professions out there, including public relations.
Yeah.
Because it's how we communicate. So there's a psychology component, but I'm not a child psychologist or any way, shape, or psychologist. That's somebody else's profession. But I'm open-minded and I'm willing to hear the other guy out. But this is assuming that they have a full grasp of the facts.
Yes.
And they're not rewriting history. And I see an awful lot of rewriting history going on. I see an awful lot of unnecessary violence. I see an awful lot of hate for no reason other than for the sake of hate and violence. It's destructive. Rather, we should be teaching how we can come together as a peaceful community to build together, not destroy. Build together, build something beautiful, strong, loving, where everyone gets to contribute whatever their special skill sets are. Remember, we were talking about math skills, storytelling skills, whatever your skills are, culinary skills, pick your skill. And what a beautiful, beautiful dinner party that would be with everyone there contributing.
Yeah, absolutely. Embrace your skills, love one another, help lift other people up, embrace love, confidence, acceptance. And that's really what life's all about. Why fight? Why have hatred? Why these things? And you can feel how you feel in your body when you're around the opposite of love and joy and acceptance. And it's not a good feeling, right? We try to escape that feeling, but sometimes we can live in that feeling. And once we live there, we stay there, but we can escape. We can get to the other side of love, acceptance. And like you just said, it starts with education. And you were educating me before we went live, and I'm grateful for it. And, it gave us less time to do this, but I think that we filled the time well. We covered a lot of what we didn't talk about in the first conversation. And again, everyone, go to the link in the description, listen to our first conversation, because we really dive into a lot of specific strategies when it comes to PR parenting. We talked about a few today, but we talked about more last time. But today was more so the results you've seen from your book being launched. And now the audio, which again, everyone, it's in 3 different languages, Spanish, Hebrew, and English. People can grab the audiobook right from Audible. Is that right? Okay.
Can. And what's also exciting is that I'm now speaking internationally on different stages and workshops and panels, and talking about PR for life. So PR parenting is a component. It's one area. There's also PR for career, PR for entrepreneurs, PR for just about anything that you want to look at a challenge looking through the PR lens. And it's been very exciting, and PR parenting's catching on, and PR for life is catching on. And if anyone out there who's listening or watching is planning an event, and this sounds like something that would add to your program, absolutely, please get in touch.
Where's the best place for them to get in touch?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. They can reach out to me on my website. There's a comment page, or a contact page rather.
Great.
I'm also available on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. I'm pretty easy to find. Look, I'm a PR person. Just plug my name into Google and you're going to see everything come up.
Mm-hmm. You practice what you preach. So I'll have links in the description, guys. So you can go down there, go contact Marjie wherever you hang out. She's going to reply to you. And Marjie, this is another incredible conversation. I'm grateful to call you a friend. I'm glad to have you back on the show. And I'm excited to have you back on the show, because we didn't even talk about balance and balancing family and work life and wearing that hat in both places effectively. And we'll have that conversation in the future. And it was amazing to talk with you again. So thank you very much, Marjie.
I love being in your company, Brandon, and congratulations on the big guy being one. That is amazing. And the next time we talk, I want you to come with some questions so that we can workshop any questions that you might have.
Excellent. I love that.
Let's be practical. This is what it's all about, to put the power in your hand, complete control, and you know what to do next.
Amazing. We'll make it happen. Thank you, Marjie.
Pleasure.
Again, the name of Marjie's book is The Power of PR Parenting: How to Raise Confident, Resilient, and Successful Children Using Public Relations Strategies. It's in physical copy. You can get the audiobook. Links are in the description. Go grab your copy. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this episode with one other person who could use it as well. Thank you for being the best part of the Be Better team. Thank you for watching and listening. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.